Angela Box is one of our most outspoken political analysts.
Filthy leftist stalkers out there, welcome back to my channel, where I always say what you were thinking. A lot of these things come back to what the Democrat Party has done to the black community.
It took an Anglo-Saxon looking woman to set everybody straight. Hair, blue eyes.
Hello, my name is Angela Box. Okay, hey guys, I'm the FKR freaks. They are really the gift that keeps on giving, and it's been a week since the verdict, and I'm just really curious to talk to every single normal person in this case. And I was this gentleman was brought to my attention. He's out of the Boston area. He's a journalist named Grant Smith Ellis, and someone direct messaged me. And they said, hey, you need to look into this Josh Levy character. So we're going to talk all things Karen Reed. I don't know. Is she out on the golf course like OJ looking for the real killers, Grant?
Oh, no, I think she prefers throwing trash out behind her hotel to prove she's an every woman.
Wait, what?
Wait, you haven't seen this video? She was captured by the Fox national cameras walking barrels of trash out of her luxury hotel, because that's what normal people do. They throw trash out in trash barrels at luxury hotels.
That's very strange. She's not in LA with her alleged boyfriend, Alan Jackson. Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that. I saw it was just Karen with the trash barrel. Maybe Alan was in the trash barrel hiding. I didn't see inside it.
I doubt that. So yeah, it's been a whole week. And it's funny, FKR was, I had a really good interview with Matt Phelps last week, and he's been attacked relentlessly because of his podcast, 34 Fairview Road. I'm sure you have received the ire of FKR too. I did too. Like the free Karen Reed people are so strange to me. Like they don't want to talk about facts of the case at all. They just make like ad hominem personal attacks. I have never seen anything like this. Have you?
I mean, in politics,
yeah.
You know, campaign season, like an October surprise, like the covering this case was as if there were artificial October surprises every week. It was all narrative all the time, and the facts just became weapons to undermine discussion so that people could express either their loneliness or their hatred towards the world or some private agenda in the form of discussion about this case. It became very sad.
So what is your take being on the ground there in Boston or the Boston area? Like, I have so many things I want to ask you, but first of all, what's the mood like now that this is essentially over, at least the criminal portion of it? What's going on there?
I would say people just moved on. The conversation in the local Dunkies this morning was, why are there so many police cars on the street, and are we going to war? So I didn't hear a single person being like, oh, Karen Reed, or what an outrage, or it was more, I think, very localized to the case. We obviously have our shocked reactions. I think there's some questions about what exactly is going on with the case, but the national mood, the local mood, I mean, we're in a dangerous situation, and I don't think anyone is paying attention to Karen Reed. Not to say that John O'Keefe's memory is being forgotten, but that wasn't the topic of discussion around the Boston water coolers today.
Interesting. So I personally think, after getting caught up with this case and watching the second trial, gavel to gavel almost, I think there's a pretty good chance that the O'Keefes are going to be filing a civil lawsuit. At least I hope so, a civil case against Karen Reed for wrongful death. I'm hopeful that the McCabe's and the Alberts are going to be filing defamation charges against her and Aidan Carney. If they don't, I think that in and of itself, if they do not do those two things, I think that would set a dangerous precedent for people like Turtle Boy and Karen Reed to just willy-nilly torment people and torture witnesses and defame people, call them murderers with zero evidence. What are you hearing about that road, maybe?
Well, obviously, there was an initial civil case that kind of got put on hold, as you were saying, so it couldn't really move forward until this whole criminal situation got the criminal trial ended. So that order, in terms of halting at least the O'Keefe family's part of the civil case against Karen, that can now move forward. Other civil cases, there's been rumors swirling, but of course, Aidan Kearney is facing 14 open felonies related to the witness intimidation and then illegal interception of an oral communication related to Lindsay Catani. And you were talking about Josh Levy. Let's remember here, folks, the DOJ switched over in the middle of this case. You know, there was a new DOJ that came in. And I think a lot of the reason Karen had protection was because of Josh Levy and that Rachel Rollins and that old DOJ. Now they're gone. So yeah, Karen got her not guilty, but that DOJ isn't in power anymore. And so there's a lot of questions that might get answered without that DOJ kind of umbrella over Karen and Aidan. That's really what I'm looking at here. I really wonder how Karen got this not guilty verdict, but it's really where the fallout goes from here that has me paying attention.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So for my audience who's more not in the Boston area, why would someone, okay, Josh Levy was with the DOJ, the Biden DOJ, correct?
Yeah, so broad 30,000 foot elevation perspective. Yeah. When Biden, the old president, picked U.S. attorneys, the woman he picked for U.S. attorney in Massachusetts was a woman by the name of Rachel Rollins. Now, some of you may have heard that name. She was the prosecutor up in Boston here who wouldn't prosecute 15 offenses, who was just who hated police, her own police, who hated the idea of enforcement of the law, but was the prosecutor. She had this progressive vision for Suffolk County. She got appointed U.S. attorney by President Biden. Now, you might say to yourself, this woman quickly got forced out of office. It was a big scandal because she went to a political fundraiser for Joe Biden's wife using official government vehicles on government time in violation of the Hatch Act. She tried to interfere in a primary for her old DA seat by using her official position of U.S. attorney. She violated 18 U.S.C. 1001 and got referred for criminal prosecution by the DOJ OIG and was somehow allowed to just leave office. Now, you might say, why was this woman put into the U.S. attorney's office? Well, you were talking about Turtle Boy, this blogger. Well, politics in Massachusetts is weird because Turtle Boy, you might think, he's a little bit right wing. He's certainly not a liberal. Well, then why Rachel Rollins, right before she got appointed U.S. attorney, why was she messaging Turtle Boy for help during a Democratic Senate primary between Ed Markey and Joe Kennedy Jr.? And why was Rachel Rollins sending Turtle Boy to send a Republican candidate named Rayla Campbell to hurt Joe Kennedy Jr. in that race and help Senator Markey? Is it because the Biden White House didn't want Joe Kennedy Jr. in JFK's old Senate seat? And did Rachel Rollins get rewarded with the position of U.S. attorney for using Turtle Boy to influence that Senate primary? That's step one. And I think the answer is yes.
Let me just interrupt there about him. Listen, I'm MAGA as the day is long. I don't claim this freak. Okay. I think he's an equal opportunity narcissist. I think he's in it for himself. He was in it because this, pumped him up, and Karen Reed saw someone that she could use in this situation. But the Josh Levy thing is interesting. You had quite an extensive post on X about it. So Levy was Rollins' assistant, correct?
Yep. So we got the background there and sort of Rollins being a little weird. Okay. And I'll tell you before we go to the Levy thing, you want to know why I think Aidan got involved? And this is jumping forward a little bit, but in April of 2023, I believe Aidan Kearney was facing, independent of the Reed case, some criminal investigations involving a woman out of Rhode Island named Natalie Haskin. Now, I have good reason to believe that Aidan was very nervous about this around April 20th of 2023 and called Karen through an intermediary named Natalie. And I believe, and it's in the search warrant for Karen Reed's phone. Aidan said to Karen that he was having some problems that he needed to spitball with Alan Jackson. Karen then linked Aidan with Alan, and they spoke sometime between April 20th and May 3rd of 2023. Within 2 weeks of that, I tell you directly that the FBI Worcester field office and an agent by the name of Samuel Weiner directly intervened in that criminal case, and it went away. So if you want to ask, yep.
What?
So it wasn't, yep. It wasn't just that Aiden had a interest in this case. It's that I believe Alan Jackson hooked Aiden up with, remember, there was a federal probe of John's death going on, John O'Keefe's death, specifically a federal grand jury between May and August. That's when it was really heating up. That's when it really was going. May and July and August of 2023. That whole time, look at the articles on Turtle Boy's blog, a pace never seen before, never replicated, a writing style that was a little abnormal. But that's just, we're jumping ahead in the story to Turtle Boy's involvement, because this investigation started in November of 2022. And Josh Levy and Rachel Rollins were all involved. We can talk about how it started. Just know Turtle Boy didn't get involved because he wanted to be famous. He was in trouble, and Karen helped him. And I think she's had that dirt on him since day one.
And Karen, and is Natalie the lady that Matt Phelps referenced in 34 Fairview Road that he kind of bleeped out her name?
Oh, so, well, Natalie
who hooked Aiden and Karen up?
Yeah, so I mean, I have the search warrant. If you, I'll send it to you time you can look at it. Natalie is listed by name. Natalie and Lindsay Gattani are in the January 2024 search warrant for Karen Reed's phone. Here's the timeline, and it's jumping forward a little bit, but in terms of the Aiden Kearney and Karen Reed relationship, Aiden Kearney and Karen, for the first 3 months that they talked, spoke through an intermediary named Natalie. Natalie was a college friend of Karen from Bentley who fell out from Karen. They didn't talk for a while. Natalie rediscovered Karen and the case because of Jen Altman, I want to say, who's a Turtle Boy fan. So Natalie found out about Karen's case and reached out to her and wanted to kind of talk to Karen about the case. And through Jen Altman, Natalie suggested that Karen talk to Aiden. But Karen didn't want to talk to him directly, so they used Natalie as an intermediary. Karen would message Natalie. Natalie would relay the message to Aiden. That went on until June or July of 2023, when Natalie and Karen had a falling out because Natalie called Karen one night late at night about something unrelated to the case, and it upset Karen. And then Natalie was offended that Karen didn't want to help her with her problems, so they had a falling out. Then at that point, Karen and Aiden start speaking directly. So the state only has Natalie as the intermediary from May roughly until July of 2023. Karen and Aiden speak directly from July until December of 2023. But during that time, Aiden is dating Lindsay Gattani, and Aiden is telling Lindsay what Karen is telling him. So there's all these messages in the cell phone exhibits to the search warrant for Karen's phone where Aiden is telling Lindsay, oh, Josh Levy's telling Karen this, and Josh Levy's saying this to the defense. Oh, yeah, in the fall of 2020.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
So the DA, let me just, Yannetti and Karen and someone else on her team go to Rollins and said, we need to look into the Suffolk County DA's office or something, or the Norfolk.
Oh, no. Oh,
right?
yeah. So you want to go? Yeah, let's go back to the beginning. November.
Yeah, I mean, it gets a little confusing, guys. I'm sorry, but there's a lot of moving parts here, and it's important because going forward, I mean, this woman, Karma's a bitch, and this woman's going to get hers. All right, go ahead.
Well, so November 2022. So remember, Karen Reed is accused of killing John O'Keefe, although she was found not guilty by a jury, but I have questions about that. January 29th, 2022 is when the incident happens. Karen gets charged originally on February 2nd, 2022 in Stoughton District Court. The charges are bound over by a grand jury indictment on June 10th, 2022.
A state grand jury.
Yep, state grand jury. And then by about August of 2022, David Yannetti's getting Court TV involved. About November, maybe September of that year, Alan Jackson's involved. November of 2022, somehow, and I think I know how it happened because David Yannetti was on Rachel Rollins' transition team when she became Suffolk DA. She was very pro-defense because she hated cops and wanted to not prosecute a lot of people, so defense attorneys helped her a lot. But so I think Yannetti got them the meeting, and Rollins, what's important to understand here is before we even get to that meeting, Rollins, independent of this case, had a grudge against the Norfolk DA for two separate reasons. One, when Rollins was Suffolk DA and she wouldn't prosecute those 15 low-level offenses, she got criticized in the press by other DAs, including Michael Morrissey. Second, Rollins wanted to change the rules in Massachusetts and have it be so that if you committed murder between the ages of 18 and 25, you couldn't be sentenced to life without parole. We don't have the death penalty. Our harshest penalty is life without parole. So when Rollins made that motion in court, other DAs filed an amicus brief and challenged her, and she flipped out about that as well. Guess who was one of the DAs? Morrissey. So she hated this guy prior to her becoming U.S. attorney. Another important thing to remember.
And these are all Democrats here.
All Democrats. All Democrats. Yep. And by the way, don't think for 1 second we're like a state that we're like, if you are a Democrat, you can get away with it, especially with me as a reporter. It doesn't matter. I'm a moderate myself. I'm a neither party, just right down Democratic, Republican, like Thomas Jefferson. But you can't get away with it here because we only are Democrats. So you can't just say, oh, I'm a Democrat, you can't criticize me. Well, okay, everyone's a Democrat. You are going to be criticized. You can't get away with it. No party loyalty, at least for me. So two things, the Rachel Rollins pre-existing grudge against Michael Morrissey. Then there's another prosecutor in the U.S. Attorney's Office at the time named Dustin Chow. His wife in 2015, remember when Hank Brennan was Whitey's lawyer?
Right. Okay.
Okay. So when that case got prosecuted, it was a bunch of charges. One of them had to do with a murder in the town of Sharon, which is in Norfolk County. Now in Massachusetts, the state police have original jurisdiction. The DA has original jurisdiction over all murders. The feds can't even charge a murder unless it's a federal crime, unless the DA agrees to let them charge it. So the Norfolk DA and the feds worked together on the 2015 Whitey case. Okay. But at the time, Dustin Chow's wife was a prosecutor in the Norfolk DA's office. She got demoted from Superior Court to District Court and left the office on bad terms. Chow in 2015 went around trying to get information to burn down the Norfolk District Attorney's reputation. By 2022, Dustin Chow is the head of the Public Corruption Unit, working under Rachel Rollins. He is the person who decides if public corruption prosecutions will go forward in Massachusetts. So you got two people with grudges against the Norfolk DA unrelated to the Reed and O'Keefe case. And then it gets even more interesting because we lost your camera. Sorry,
I know, it's my stupid battery.
No, don't worry about it. But
I'm moving it over to FaceTime. There we go. Can you see me?
Yep, can see you.
Okay.
So the reason I bring that up is so you got these two pre-existing grudges, and one more thing to keep in mind. Rachel Rollins got forced out of office as U.S. attorney because she targeted a different DA, the Suffolk DA, with a fake federal probe, leaked it, and then used that leak to be like, oh, look, there might be a federal investigation. November of 2022, Karen Reed, Alan Jackson, David Yannetti show up. Rollins is about to get thrown out of office. She knows she wants to get back at Morrissey. She's being forced out. She gives them a meeting with Levy. But you might be saying, why would Josh Levy, who was just her first assistant, why would he want to do this, right?
Right. And ruin his career potentially and maybe get to jail.
It's because he wasn't going to ruin his career. I don't know if folks on your channel have heard of Sandra Birchmore.
No.
I'm
really new to this stuff in the Massachusetts side.
Oh, sure. So Sandra Birchmore was a young woman in Canton. She was a teacher's assistant. She was pregnant and she was dating a Stoughton police officer named Matthew Farwell. I do
know a little bit about that case. Yes. He killed her.
Yes, on February 1st, 2021 at 9:23 p.m., Matthew Farwell is alleged to have gone over to Sandra Birchmore's apartment because she wouldn't get rid of the baby. She wanted to keep the baby and, she wanted to have the baby. So he killed her, hung her from a door, and then staged it. Now, you might say, okay, so how's that related? Well, it occurred in Norfolk County. And the way the district attorney's office works here is that if there's a homicide in a county, the same state police unit will investigate it. There's one state police unit assigned to each district attorney's office that investigates homicides. So in Norfolk County, the same unit that investigated Karen Reed for John's death in 2022 investigated Farwell for Birchmore's death in 2021. Now here's where it gets a little weird. Monday, February 4th, the Canton police respond to Sandra Birchmore's apartment for a wellness check when she doesn't show up to work at her school on Monday. They find her dead. Within 48 hours, the Canton police are able to get the following evidence. 1, Matthew Farwell was the man on security camera at Sandra's apartment at the time of the murder. 2, Matthew Farwell was the same man, according to the maintenance worker, who moved Sandra into her apartment. 3, there were text messages from Sandra's colleagues at school of screenshots where Farwell said he was going to take care of the problem himself if Sandra wouldn't get rid of the baby. Within 48 hours on February 6th, the Canton police turned that information over to the Norfolk District Attorney's State Police Unit. Somehow, 3 months later, that State Police Unit doesn't include any of that evidence in their report and clears Farwell of wrongdoing and rules Sandra's death a suicide. Here's where it gets weird. 2 of those officers, John Fanning and Yuri Buchanan, used to work in Stoughton with Farwell. Here's where it gets even more weird. After the MSP wrote that report, despite the evidence from Canton PD, the former chief of the Canton police, Ken Berkowitz, I have very good reason to believe he reported the Stoughton police and the MSP unit to the FBI related to the Birchmore case, which means, and that was like in 2021, 2022, that means when Levy had Jackson, Yannetti, and Reed walk into his office in November of 2022, I think he played him. I think Levy knew that Birchmore was the actual target, the cover-up of Birchmore's murder, but he knew the state police would be keen to it. They'd be wise to it. They're investigators themselves. So they launched a fake probe into Karen Reed and John O'Keefe so that they could distract the MSP unit and actually look into the cover-up of Sandra's death. Why does this make sense? Because that grand jury I mentioned in 2023 with Josh Levy leading it, it ended basically in August when the Birchmore grand jury started. And the MSP, when they were investigating Aidan Kearney in the fall of 2023, yeah, they were investigating Aidan. He did some bad stuff. But guess what they really wanted to know? Guess what they were asking people in his circle? Who's the target of the federal probe? And what's it about? Because they knew it wasn't about John's death. So you see why this narrative is so delicate? Because the people around the Reed and O'Keefe case, I think in particular this unit of MSP, they knew they were clean for investigating Karen. They knew she did it, in their opinion. But they knew Birchmore was hiding under the surface. I think Karen knew Birchmore was hiding under the surface. And I think Levy, the reason he gave Karen so many winks and nods and helped her out is that was an operation to distract the MSP so that they could actually investigate the cover-up of Sandra's murder. And that's where we're at.
So a lot of the Free Karen Reed people will bring this case up and they will say, Massachusetts State Police, and now you're saying Yuri Buchanan is involved in perhaps a cover-up, that they point to this as saying, bad apple spoils every bunch type of thing. Do you think that Yuri Buchanan and the other gentleman you mentioned, do you think they're dirty? Do you think they just missed it? Like, what do you think this is?
Very high level source in this world said to me, Michael Morrissey is a good guy, but he's got some bad people around him. I think the investigation of Karen Reed was clean. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Those cops who used to work in Stoughton, the ring of women of young girls abused by those cops was more than just Sandra Birchmore. And I think the incentive for the MSP unit here to not look into what happened with Farwell was not to protect Matt Farwell. It was because you open that Pandora's box, you're going to find, and by the way, I now have evidence of this, that baby was not Matt Farwell's. It just came out in the past 3 weeks or a month. There was a ring of cops. It was like his brother, who was also a cop, a guy named Robert Devine. It was a ring of them. And I'm going to guess if we really open that Pandora's box, it touched on some of those guys. Do I know who? Do I know why? Do I know who said do this, do that? No, but I can, I guarantee Tully knew. I can almost guarantee. I guarantee Nick Garino knew. I guarantee Yuri knew. I guarantee John Fanning knew. John Fanning was the name on the report, but it was their unit. And then also, let's not forget, like, I think the key insight here, and it's why people have such a difficult time parsing this sort of what happened here. Nothing is black and white. Some of us try to be, universally good. We just try to be good. But most politics, most like intelligence operations, like state police are an intelligence gathering operation. The feds are an intelligence gathering operation. It's not about being good or evil. It's about achieving results. And so I think what makes it really hard for people to understand is like, how is it possible that someone could simultaneously want to like, and do a good job of like trying to get Karen Reed for John's death, but at the same time, like have covered up Sandra's murder? Or like, for example, Lindsay Gattani's cell phone extraction. When Aidan Kearney was being investigated for witness intimidation and for what he did to Lindsay, Lindsay's one of the named victims in the open felony cases. Brian Tully took a 15-year extraction of Lindsay's phone, right? Only deleted messages from himself to Lindsay and one other person to Lindsay, and then leaked it to Aidan's lawyer by hand, including pictures of Lindsay giving birth right before the first Karen Reed trial. And you might say, well, why would he do that? Well, it caused a big distraction. And leading up to the first Karen Reed trial, nothing could get the Turtle Riders to leave these witnesses alone. But Lindsay became, so now when you see what I'm saying, like it's all about ends justify the means. You need to get something done, you get it done. It's not a morality question for these people. It's get the shit done. You got to get Karen, okay, get it done. Because she did it, okay? You got to cover up the Birchmore thing because of some other political shit, cover it up. You got to use Lindsay as a distraction, no matter the cost, because she couldn't, like, because Lindsay, remember, was one of the people that Tully wanted to find out information from about what the federal probe was about. Oh, she's useless? Well, at least we can use her as a distraction. Who cares if it's naked pictures of her giving birth? She's just a single mom. She can't stop us. We're the state police. What they didn't foresee was someone actually figuring this out.
So, okay. The verdict last week, for those of us not in Massachusetts, and who see this case pretty critically and clearly, it was such a head scratcher. But now that you're kind of giving me this backstory about potential corruption in the Massachusetts State Police, those jurors would know all of that stuff. And even though they couldn't bring it into the case, they still knew all that stuff. So even it's almost like it was a jury nullification, not just for Karen, but to send a message to potentially corrupt people in the Massachusetts State Police. Am I off here?
Yeah, I thought you were going to go another direction. Yeah, I actually think you're wrong. And here's why. And you might like this answer. I'm so glad you actually brought this up. So I don't know if I think something did happen with the jury, but I don't think they nullified. I think that it might have actually been corrupted. Here's why. Okay. Did anyone take a look at the reporting about juror number 11's father-in-law? Did you catch any of that? It was
I didn't. I saw one that was like a big true crime junkie, and she's like, I've never heard of this case, and that one.
Oh no. So I'll tell you, I do some good research, and I'm pretty local, and I am pretty good at following court documents. Juror 11's father-in-law in 2019 was a defense contractor for Raytheon who had immigrated from Egypt. He was born in 1953, immigrated from Egypt in 1980, worked his way up at Raytheon and had top secret security clearances as a physicist working on missile defense systems. Okay. Raytheon is a DoD defense contractor in this area in Massachusetts. It's very serious. In 2019, he was found to have taken 31,000 pages of documents to his house, obliterated the classified markings. 500 of the pages were about U.S. missile defense systems, okay? He was caught by the FBI, and he proceeded to try to destroy the documents, like he tried to get away with it. Simultaneously, he was charged in state court in Attleboro for possession of child sexual abuse material. This is the father-in-law. Okay, now here's where it gets really weird. Guess who represented him in the Attleboro District Court?
Let me guess, David Yannetti.
No, Kevin Reddington, who is a federal lawyer that was the lawyer for witness Jen McCabe. Now, it gets way weirder. So the guy, the father-in-law of juror 11, he, after getting caught stealing classified military missile documents, not like just pictures of a site, like literally the documents to our missile defense, and in possession of child sexual abuse imagery. Do you know how much prison term he got? 18 months, concurrent for both state and federal charges in a private ICE detention facility in Pennsylvania, normally used as a transitional point before deportation. He then wasn't deported and allowed to go back to being a free man. Now, why would that happen unless, let's say, for example, he was Egyptian intelligence and there was a State Department negotiation where we got some guys out of a prison in Egypt who weren't declared CIA and got caught. And then this guy wasn't sent back to Egypt, but we let him do 18 months. Okay, and then it makes you wonder, why did Juror 11 and her husband, who were living in California from 2012 to 2021, creating podcasts to convince feminist Catholic women to convert to radical Islam in America? Why did they suddenly, after the father gets popped and goes to federal prison on these charges, move to Brazil for 3 years? And then why in March of 2024 did the juror move to a $1.5 million home in Brazil and take a part-time in Walpole, Massachusetts in Norfolk County from Brazil and take a part-time job at a Target until she got selected for the Karen Reed retrial jury in the retrial? And then furthermore, why is she so good at PR? Why is she so good at speaking? Why is she basically as good as a trained intelligence operative would be? And why is a potential family member of an Egyptian intelligence operative going from California making Islamic videos for Western feminist Catholic women to Brazil? And remember, Brazil and Egypt are hostile countries to the United States. They're a member of the BRICS, right? They are our enemies. Why is she going from California to Brazil when her dad gets popped in Massachusetts for stealing our defense secrets? And then why does she show up back here?
That's a whole rabbit hole, Grant. That's a whole rabbit hole.
And so the reason why I'm apoplectic about this, and we didn't even lead with it, is you want to talk about that jury. I'm not only worried about the influence this person had on the jury, I'm worried about whether it's possible that when the father went down, we had a security failure and they didn't know about the son. That's why he went to Brazil. They knew about him because he wrote in the sentencing memo for his dad, but they didn't know about the son or the daughter or the Islamic podcast. She goes to Brazil, maybe working for Egyptian intelligence, regrouping, and then maybe Alan Jackson. Think about this. You got a pissed off former federal DOJ, Levy, Rollins, Chow. They couldn't save Karen the first time with ARCA. They violated the sequester order. Remember, DOJ helped Karen the first trial. Is this the revenge of the DOJ? Who would have a freaking random connect to a potential Egyptian intelligence operative in Brazil? And who would have the power to make sure someone got on the jury? I think
that's interesting. And there's been reports that obviously there was a few jurors that were voting to convict. Obviously, I was so surprised. I was like, this heifer is going down this time. There's no way. Back to the case. I mean, this is rabbit hole city for sure. I'm sure that Hank Brennan, hindsight, was like, why the hell didn't I put on a rebuttal case? Why the hell didn't I bring the dog lady back to talk about how dogs, as far as I know, have an upper and a lower jaw and DNA attached to it? At the very least, you should have brought the dog lady back and had a little fun with that. But are you getting any sense of how the jury was split initially when they did their first polling? Or was this already a fait accompli?
Well, I've listened to every interview except for the one the four-person did, today with Good Morning America. And what I got the sense is there were a few guilty verdicts, but it really seemed like the reason Hank approached the case the way he did it towards the end was that he probably figured out what I just told you. And I know it seems
was in.
Yeah, and I know it seems weird, but remember, Hank Brennan has access to the jury list. Now, if you had been, I know you're very busy, but if you had been watching over 40 hours starting, I think, last Wednesday or Thursday when the verdict came in real time, crowdsourced, we were able to put together that this woman's father-in-law was clearly Egyptian intelligence. Mm-hmm. Hank Brennan has federal security clearances, has been a federal lawyer, had the jury list. I am sure at a certain point, he put, what can you do at that point? Maybe nothing, but I'm pretty sure he realized it was, the fix was in. And if I'm right, and Hank Brennan had the new DOJ under Leah Foley and President Trump didn't like what Karen did with ARCA, right? Forget about the Birchmore case, whatever, but didn't like how Levy and Rollins and whatever gave Karen a tip on the scale during the first trial. Okay, so that's why Hank Brennan gets all those documents exposing the hidden payments from ARCA. That really embarrassed the DOJ. When all that, that was not the new DOJ under Leah Foley.
Wait, let me. I'm blanking on that. Hidden payments to the defense. Hidden payments.
Yeah. So what happened was, during the first trial, from March to July of 2024, ARCA was actually being paid by the defense, but not disclosing it to Judge Cannoni or the Commonwealth, and not revealing it, and the defense wasn't revealing it. Yep.
What?
Yeah.
Can they do that?
Well, and so what happened was, after President Trump got elected in January of 2025, remember when the federal probe was announced as closed?
Yes.
Right at the same time, Leah Foley released to Hank Brennan documents confirming that Reed's defense paid ARCA and had been communicating with them. Remember the 100 text messages and all that?
Yes.
Hank only got that because of Leah Foley.
The text messages that Dr. Wolf deleted.
Yes, just even the fact that all Hank, I think, got was the number of texts, or the fact they had been sent, not the content. He got that because Leah Foley came into office and the old liberals were gone. Now, this is why I'm a little worried. If Leah Foley and Hank Brennan really stood up to FKR and Alan Jackson and the old DOJ, I'm worried the old DOJ was like, oh, you think it's that easy? And somebody called somebody who had a contact and was like, we're going to make sure to protect our liberal DOJ's reputation that she gets a not guilty. I'm worried not just that this verdict was manipulated, but that it was manipulated by statecraft, not the current administration. And this is why I think President Trump might have to get involved, or the GOP accountability the Congressional Oversight Committee, the DOJ OIG. I think what we had here potentially was a triumvirate of alienated liberal DOJ bigwigs, Josh Levy and others, who might have had a vested interest in making sure this verdict was not guilty.
A vested interest, especially because Josh Levy has been proven to be in communication with Karen.
And then it gets more. And what did Josh Levy do as soon as he got kicked out of office and Leah Foley came in? Levy sued President Trump on behalf of Harvard.
That's great. Oh, so Levy is now Harvard's attorney in the negotiations that the Trump administration is having with Harvard. That's just, that's crazy. Listen, just like FKR, I don't want to be, I love a good conspiracy theory, 100%. And this is very interesting, and I've never heard of any of this stuff. But we don't want to be like old FKR going, hey, we're going to find the real killers now. But this is what's interesting. What it sounds to me that you're saying is that maybe Hank Brennan knew the fix was in. And he was like, all right, cool. We're going to see. It's sort of like those of us, again, in the rabbit hole community. We're like, Trump is just kind of hands-offing it and has been for quite some time. Let's see them hang themselves. Don't interfere with the enemy as they're in the process of destroying themselves. So perhaps Hank was like, okay, we know about this potential Egyptian, the weirdness. And then maybe he's like, is there a chance that the feds could step in and say, we're going to try this case on a federal level? Or is the criminal case over? Is there any chance?
Let me give you an example by analogy. So you remember the situation in Las Vegas with that shooting?
Yeah. Yeah. That wasn't weird or anything.
Yeah. So, what if it were like this, right? So Saudi Arabia has a relatively complex geopolitical history, but right around that time, King Solomon had to make a choice. There were two different factions within his kingdom. One was led by his previously designated successor, MBZ. One was led by a more Western, Israeli-friendly man named MBS. You probably heard of him. Now, MBS loves the high life. That literally, you could say he likes to powder his nose to refresh a lot. Okay.
Right.
I'm just saying, he likes to stay dry. It's very, very hot in Qatar or Saudi Arabia.
Right.
All right, so let's say he was in Vegas. Now, people will deny this for whatever, but you can see the video. He was not there under his real name. I promise you it was a fake name. But let's say he was in Vegas, right? And say certain factions of U.S. intelligence, certain factions of Saudi intelligence wanted him gone. Let's say President Trump didn't want him gone. Let's say President Trump liked the idea of MBS taking over, despite the fact that MBZ had been a 20-year intelligence asset for the West. He would have been really good for the West too. It's just he was not friends with Trump like MBS. So let's just say President Trump maybe didn't get told about this. What do you do if you're President Trump? You're someone who's campaigned on releasing the, Epstein files, releasing the JFK files. Then I guarantee you he signed a 141D. I promise you he signed a 141D on that. We are never going to hear anything about that, because what that really was MBS surviving an assassination attempt, which is why immediately after, probably with President Trump's support, MBS went to Saudi Arabia and literally locked all the people in the Four Seasons and did a coup and took over. He survived the hit.
I remember this.
He survived the hit. He went back to Saudi Arabia. He cleaned up. Now he's in charge. Is President Trump ever going to tell us that? No, because it's a matter of national security.
I mean, again, so many rabbit holes.
So by analogy, my answer to your question is, it depends. It depends on if it's a matter of national security. If there was a person who made a decision, and I'm going to speak very gently, okay? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not part of the government. This is not legal advice. If there was a person who made a decision in 2019 or 2020, okay, that son of the father-in-law who stole the missiles was useful as a double agent,
oh dear. We lost Grant. Oh no. Right when we were it was getting good, you guys. This is such a rabbit hole. Hopefully he will pop back on. Literally just lost him. It's weird. I'm gonna keep the show going. See if he comes back into the stream. Hold on, guys. Let me just let him know. Lost you. Hop back on. I mean, y'all, this is a rabbit hole of all rabbit holes. I don't want to be. I really I'm loath to be too FKR in the sense of that it's not just a straightforward case. The case is extremely straightforward. We know she did it, but there are all these other little tendrils that evidently are going on that behind the scenes that could have affected the there you go. He's back. Sorry, but are you
Angela,
back?
No,
are you there?
Yeah, Angela, I know you didn't do that because you were literally
No. I don't know what happened. That was weird. But you're back. And we're still recording, so we're good.
Yeah. But Angela, how weird was that? I know you didn't end that or anything. Literally, as I said that sentence, it cut me out. It threw me out. The whole thing.
I mean,
cut me out.
It's weird because I was saying while you were
like a message.
Can you hear me? You can hear me, right?
Stop.
Yeah, that was interesting. Can you hear me? Hello? We're having some issues. Can you hear me? I don't know what's going on. Grant, can you hear me? I can see you. I cannot hear you. What is going on, y'all? What is happening? Hello? I'm going to let him know. You are frozen.
Oh, I'm back.
Oh,
yeah, I'm
you're back?
I'm back. I'm back. Are we
Okay, I can hear you.
we
I can
back?
see you. Okay. I think it's, I don't know what's going on. Can you hear me? Everyone loves that shit. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Are we there? Can you hear me? Okay, I can see you. You're moving. I don't know if you can hear me at all. Are you there?
Yep.
Okay, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. I mean, that is interesting. The conspiracy theorist in me is like, that's interesting. I was curious. I guess
Yes.
it's interesting. I want to kind of wrap up here with what do you think the next steps are if to get justice for this man? I mean, is there going to be a civil trial? Are there going to be, I mean, there's so much evidence. Like, I think Aiden Carney is basically going to give up Karen Reed real quick. Like, she's going to abandon him right quick. Like, if there's anything I know about this guy is like, he's a vengeful MFer. Okay. Like, he'll turn on her quick, I think, and give up everything. I think we still are having issues with Grant. Grant, darn, I really wanted your take on this.
He's already talked about. Oh, I'm here. I think you just have to give it a second.
I hear you. What is your, like, don't you, Aiden will Aiden give her up? Yes. I'm so bummed. I think Grant agrees with me, and I don't know if he can hear me or not, but I think we all agree that.
You might. No.
Okay, I can hear you now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It's just the connection.
The connection's not great. I'm so sorry. I don't know whose end that is, but I'm sorry if it's mine. That's interesting. All right.
Don't worry about it. It could be anything.
It could be anything. I'm hearing.
I think earlier it was working fine. It's going up and down. I can hear what you're saying. I think it's just
right now you're delayed a little bit. You're slightly delayed. But hopefully we can get, you know what? Maybe let me stop this recording and we can redo a different link. And so we can finish up. Does that work? Okay, you guys, I think I'm going to go ahead and end this link, and hopefully we will get Grant back, because that was all right. Yay!
So first of all, it's great to have you back. Now, Angela, let's just recap, because for those just tuning in, this is actually you interviewing me. We're just making some technical adjustments. It might be a little bit unsettling for people to have seen this. We live in a free country. This is the United States of America. We were having a discussion about topics that anyone might have talked about. You know, this was all publicly available information. You were about to ask me if I thought, where is this verdict? Where are we going from here? It just cut out. We could not have the conversation.
It was strange.
And I guess in that sense, that we'll leave it at that. And then I'll let you ask the questions, because this is your interview of me. I'm just now accommodating the technological medium.
Listen, I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm thrilled. I love talking to people who are on the ground there, because coming from someone like an outsider, again, it just seems like such a cut and dry case. Like, I don't get this verdict at all. Like, at F and all. Okay. So I guess in my heart of hearts, if what we're all talking about comes to fruition, that mean, oh, damn it. God, this is a fucking shit show, man. Hang on, let me change my FaceTime camera again. This is I mean, this, I have so many issues with my camera. Anyway, I guess in my heart of hearts, what I hope happens is that the feds somehow get involved in this and they're like, okay, there were some shenanigans that went on with this Josh Levy character and the Karen Reed defense. And that in and of itself, maybe we can't charge her for the murder of John O'Keefe, but we can charge her with X. And if the feds get involved, that could be a more interesting thing. I just it strained my credulity to think that her lawyers would risk everything for this in denial alcoholic narcissist. Like it doesn't
It
like why
was,
would they risk their whole career for this? Like I don't know.
but Aidan Kearney told us the answer, isn't it? Didn't he? Everything is riding on this. My reputation, my future. This was I truly believe when that guilty verdict came down, Alan and Karen each made 40 to $50 million.
What?
I'm not kidding you. I truly believe when that
How would Karen make 40 to 50 million dollars?
I believe that the licensing, I'm not saying I'm just guessing. Okay. I believe based on my analysis that most likely when that guilty verdict came down, each of them made 40 to 50 million. They had rights deals that were conditional on the verdict. Each of them made 40 to 50 million. And you know what I'm wondering? If they had those
You mean
rights,
like with the body in the snow thing?
no, it's going to be way more than that. You remember like the movie Black Mass or whatever? This is going to be bigger than, I mean, the way Karen thinks of it, it's going to be bigger than Aaron Brockovich. It's going to be bigger than Titanic. That's Karen. Karen thinks she's going to become the next like Meryl Streep.
Do you think Karen thinks she's innocent? Do you think she's talked herself into that at this point? Like
No,
I don't think she has.
no,
She
no, I don't think. I think Karen is way more in the mindset of I'm going to become an aristocrat. She's always wanted to be one, like a high earner, not yet rich. Okay, she's in finance. She never really broke the glass ceiling. She was working as a day trader and needed a second job as a professor. Like I don't, and the only thing that would really make sense, by the way, about all this, and it is important we talk about it. The only thing that would make sense is if her father and her are also at least in the orbit of the intelligence world. Here's why I think about it. Do you know where Bentley is? Have you heard of the college?
not until this case.
Yeah, so I'm from this small town outside of Boston. I'm from a suburb, and it's right next to Bentley. It's the town over from me. And Bentley is like an international finance hub. It's like you go there, you will know presidents, you will know like prime ministers, you will know the heads of the World Bank. It is the perfect place for domestic intelligence to operate. So I've always felt William Reed. I asked him to his face one time if he knew Josh Levy. And he was like, no. But like I've always felt that William Reed was more than just a college dean. Not in a bad way. Like I love America. Like I get the sense like he carries around the air with him like don't you understand how much I've done for this country? He doesn't say it, but he carries this air of like, don't you know who I am? And a Bentley dean, like some random dean at a college, no, 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 no. They don't think like that. They don't care.
Well, I definitely think that her parents, at the very least, have enabled this woman's awful, narcissistic, sociopathic behavior probably her whole life. And regardless of the multi-layered potentiality of this, at the very least, I really hope that the O'Keefes file a civil suit. I hope that the McCabe's and the Alberts file defamation charges. And I think it's going to be very simple to prove because there are going to be text messages between her and Aiden Carney. Aiden Carney, or she's telling them where to find these people, where their houses are, whatever. I mean, it is so outrageous. And I think this is why this case has caught on because in actuality, it's a very simple case, but the reason it caught on was because of the outrageous behavior by this woman and this blogger. Like it's insane what they did to innocent people. And there has to be an accounting for that.
And I'm worried now, and I'm sorry to turn the interview around, but what do you think? This is why I really wanted to pull it into what we've seen with these media interviews and the jury. I don't think we can ignore this because what the jury is almost doing is they're asking Leah Foley to try to relook at the case. When what I'm wondering is it's not the case that has to be relooked at, the investigation of John's death or anything. It's the defense. Like you're saying, can't do we have an apparatus that's capable of and obviously jurors are going to call for an investigation into themselves. So as Americans, we have the right to petition the government for redress of our grievances. And if we think the jury process was compromised for setting I mean, we could set aside the spy stuff, okay? Although that's true, the records are there. But if
Yeah.
the jury was compromised, like by ideology, or someone who didn't reveal that they were FKR or who had outside influence, who other than the public is supposed to say, government, do something? That
Yeah, I just don't know how that's gonna happen because jurors could just be like, well, you just lie. I mean, obviously there were stealth FKR on there, and FKR is unlike a beast. I've never seen a group of people like this, like that are riding and dying for such a deplorable human being, and yet they think she's some freedom fighter. She's a nasty piece of work, this woman. And again, imagine like, okay, these were her friends. Like whether or not she knew them for a long term, she certainly knew Jen McCabe for a while. She certainly knew Carrie for a while because of the kids. It's like, can you imagine like a decent human being being like if I had done this, and I said this in the interview with Matt Phelps, I was like, if I had done this, my mother would have been like, "Oh, you're gonna take your consequence, okay? We're not putting money up for a defense to then blacken the names of people who are your friends." Like it's so dirty to me what she's done. Like I've got to believe that karma's coming for this heifer
well,
at
well,
some
well,
point.
oh yeah, and you know her brother Nathan got caught embezzling $24,000 from a college bookstore.
I did hear about that.
And I'm sure the father helped him get off with some kind of negotiated plea on that as well. And I do think there's this culture of non-accountability. And I mean, maybe it's the elephant in the room. Like, they're not even necessarily that rich, but do we have this position? Do we have this? Not everyone who makes money is this way, obviously. But do we
Right.
have certain people in America who say, oh, well, I made money. I made it. I'm someone. So therefore, my children can't be held accountable. That might be playing into this, but that doesn't explain the scope.
Yeah.
As you said, what was the word? The intensity of the passion. And I truly, maybe you believe differently. I truly believe that at least towards the end there, because I was seeing the buffer zone crowds right in the beginning. It was just like 5, 10 people, 20. I think it was paid for. Like, come on.
That's what Matt Phelps said too. Matt said, I can't prove it, but there are allegations that some of this, hundreds of thousands of dollars she raised in her defense, we're going to pay these people. I mean, AstroTurf. I mean, again, defense attorneys are not Republicans, okay? They're all Democrats are all about astroturfing. So they're like, let's do what, they do with BM, as I call Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Let's do that with this group of people.
Well,
I don't
yeah.
know.
Well, and I worry it's a little bit more than that. And, don't just, I'll spitball with you here. These kind of movements, right? Like they serve a purpose, multiple purposes, right? Like they're very popular, right? So therefore they bring in a lot of people, really easy to monitor them all. Maybe these are elements of society that a little fringe, a little bit.
It's coming from a conservative point of view. What I found so strange, I guess, I was telling Matt Phelps, I was like, I'm gonna be a MAGA whisperer, and I'm gonna explain to you why MAGA's into this because it is a conspiracy theory. and we love a good rabbit hole. Okay, so that's why. And they just think that this is just another government out to get innocent women. I'm like, no, 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 this ain't it. All right, it's a very simple case. Like she fucking did it. Okay, she did it. Their data doesn't lie. He was on the ground. I mean, I was like, oh, maybe what they did is they got Jen McCabe and the McAlberts. So they grabbed his limbs and they pulled him into the house, but they left his phone out in the cold so they could really set her up. Like it makes zero
No,
effing sense.
no.
Like it's so dumb. Dumb.
I have the theory that puts it all together. It's that Chloe doesn't follow the laws of gravity because she's
Right.
from another planet and doesn't have
Yes.
DNA, and so actually
Or
that
lower jaw.
Oh, you
Or
followed
lower
my
jaw.
mind. There you go. I have a fun story for you, by the way, before we move on. You call yourself a bit of a MAGA whisperer. So I'm probably one of the few people from like deep blue Massachusetts who will be like,
Yeah.
well, let me tell you about how my mom and my grandfather used to go down to Mar-a-Lago and they were friends with President Trump. And that is true. My mom is like Wendy Murphy. So she used to she does a lot of TV, and so she
Oh,
knew
that's your
Bill.
mom?
Yes, so she
I
knew
think I've
Bill.
heard of her. I think I probably would know her if I saw her.
Oh, she's wonderful. She does a lot of like victims and children's advocacy work. She does the Equal Rights Amendment for women. She's a professor of law.
Hmm.
But Bill O'Reilly wrote the foreword to her last book, her two books ago, actually. She just wrote a new book, Oh, No, He Didn't, which is about women in history and the men who stole their inventions. So there you
That's
go.
interesting.
But Bill O'Reilly wrote the forward to one of her books. And so she used to be in this, she used to go on Geraldo and Bill Donahue. Like my childhood was like Montel Williams gave me a GameCube because he was like, I'm sorry your mom had to come do TV over the weekend, Grant. Here's a GameCube. And then like,
Oh, that's funny.
but I bring that up because I'm probably one of the few people in Massachusetts who just whether you're Democrat or Republican, like most of them will just talk to me. Like it's because I just am mostly about my views. Like I really like Jesus, so it's just I'm easy to talk to. I'm not a partisan, and even the FKR fans, a lot of them speak to me, and I never got the sense that it was just about the conspiracy because I hear what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. I see it, and don't get me wrong, President Trump has changed politics in the sense that people don't think about the government like they used to, much more
Right.
distrusting what's really going on. So that I get. But for them, it seemed like a sense of meaning, purpose in life. It
Yes.
was something, it wasn't just, President Trump or politics, whatever. That's like meaning, right? Like, you attach it, but it's not every minute of every day, even for someone who, and I'm not saying this in a pejorative way, say you love like some random Democratic politician, you love a Republican politician, you still have your life outside of
Yeah,
politics.
but FKR, man, that was a whole thing.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And
And
I
now
even,
it's just gone away. Like, gone away.
well, and did you notice the very tactical kind of like, okay, we're not going to talk about this anymore. Like LTL was like, I'm retiring from coverage of the Karen Reed case. I'm
Who?
moving. LTL was one of LTL Media is one of Let's Talk Live is one of Karen's big FKR people. Him and I know each other because he covers another case, which is about
Hmm.
Trooper Enrique Delgado
Now
Garcia.
they're just like, never mind.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
going to go over here.
they're just gonna go like I said, I thought about this. I was like, how long is it gonna be until FKR's like, hang on a minute. The only Fed investigation going on is the investigation into witness harassment and tampering and it's directed at Karen and Aiden. Like, how long is it gonna be until they understand like y'all were played, like duped?
Well, have you?
Duped. And do
Well,
they have enough self-awareness and integrity to say, okay, I was completely duped. I'm a dumbass, basically. I'm an idiot. I
well,
bought it.
and that's hard for anyone to do. But
It's hard.
think about in the where we're at now, right? It's such a battle of the media narratives.
Hmm.
They're now living in this world, right, where they have these jurors out there who are saying exactly what they want to hear, and what did Shakespeare say? All the world's a stage. So it's like it's more, that's what I've noticed. It's more about the narrative than it is about the facts. The most people, and I hate to say it, don't actually care about the facts. They just want to hear a narrative, and then they align certain facts to the narrative. And I'm not saying now FKR did it really bad, but you can have that happen in any case. It's just in this case, people really there was a narrative out there for years that Colin Albert and Chris Albert sold drugs. They didn't do
Oh, I
that.
didn't.
Someone made up a rumor who shall remain nameless. Someone made up a rumor because they wanted to troll Turtle Boy, right? So they wrote an email to Turtle Boy and they were like, oh, Colin Albert and Chris Albert sold drugs. Turtle Boy read the email on a show. And then for 2 years, people were like, Colin Albert and Chris Albert did that. There was no legitimacy to it. It's just because someone said it, it became a narrative. That's
Similar to the person that, was like a friend of a friend who was there that said that, was it Sexton? Oh, and the Sexton guy, the PI guy was like, a friend of a friend said they were there and Colin Albert and no, Brian Higgins and
Oh,
Colin Albert beat him up.
Scanlon.
Scanlon.
You want to know what's weird about that? Scanlon was offered $1,500 by David Yannetti to sign an affidavit attesting to that.
And he's like, I can't do this.
But how much? Well, do you know how much do you want to bet that mysterious caller to David Yannetti's office that tipped them off? How much do you want to bet? Like it was actually Scanlon and Yannetti.
Right.
Because did you notice? I don't know if you watched us review the Rachel Rollins document about the OIG. What she would do is she'd be like, I want to investigate something, but I can't just launch it. But if I call the Globe or the Herald and I give them a story that's not real, but just is enough, then I'll take the story they wrote with me as the source. I'll give it to the DOJ. They'll investigate. You see what I'm saying?
Well, it's what Nancy Pelosi let the cat out of the bag years ago. It's the wrap-up smear. So
what's that? Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah, that's what it is. So they basically were like, oh, did you hear? Did you hear? I mean, forget the fact that this doesn't look, I will say this, if we did not have his phone, people would be like, maybe this is true. Maybe. Like, but they had his phone, they had her black box. Like, guys, it's a very simple case. And y'all got played. Y'all got played.
And even not just the FKR fans, but I just have to wonder if this was more than the movement, right? I'm wondering if, and I know it's not sour grapes, I'm truly wondering if the reason Alan Jackson is so good at what he does is because you don't win in the courtroom.
Yeah.
Now, if I were a lawyer, let me spitball something with you. Say you were my client. Okay. Say you were charged with, let's see, you wanted to take Lake Michigan and take all the water and move it to California. I'm making up a very fake crime. Okay. You wanted to take all the water from Lake Michigan and move it to California. That's not a crime. I'm just making it up because I didn't want to accuse you of a crime. Say you were charged, right? And I knew you were going to get convicted, right? Like I knew you designed this giant water slide and you stole all the water from Lake Michigan, right? But I really, really, really had to make sure you were innocent. If I couldn't win with my bombastic personality in the courtroom, if I couldn't win with the facts, if I couldn't win with the law, if I couldn't win with money like that in the courtroom, then what I would tell you is we have only one option. And that is to make sure that there's someone on that jury that works for us. And I would say actually, ideally, more than a few people. So what would you say in response? How do we do that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, there's only a certain jury pool for the county.
Well, Karen did say we like this jury. She liked the jury.
And it does make it does make me wonder because there's this we can definitely talk about. There's a club out where you.
I only have about 5 more minutes though.
No, don't
I
go
dinner.
go whenever you got to go. I just go and go and go.
Go.
There's this research discipline called jury consulting. So this is what I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
Do you think that the reason Hank Brennan lost this case, unfortunately, wasn't the facts, wasn't the law,
right,
but at jury selection?
Yes, 100%. I do. Again, an outsider, didn't watch the first trial until I went back and rewatched it, but shocking. I could not. I was thinking, I guess, back in the OJ days, like listening to, what was his name? The DNA guy, the little dude. What was his name?
Not Garagos.
No, one of the OJ lawyers that was the DNA guy.
Oh,
I can't think of his name. But he's a very famous lawyer. And the way that the lawyers spoke to witnesses, again, just people who were there, like just here's what happened. Like it was so shocking to me. The level of acrimony, the level of just Like I couldn't believe it. I was like, my mouth was on the floor all the time. And I'm like, surely the jury is like, stop, you guys are assholes, man. These are just witnesses. Stop making it like that they had this scheme going. Because, this is again, yeah, it was determined at jury selection because they never once brought in a third culprit thing. They never once said, here's what we think happened. No. No, they just had Karen go out every day going, you know who did it. And this heifer will talk to any media outlet, but she won't go on the stand under oath. So, Alan Jackson and his, as I say, lady levels of Botox, and Robert Alisi with his boot polish in his hair. Ugh.
Well, and
Awful.
it does remind me of that in a lot of ways because it didn't matter what Hank got up there and said, didn't matter what Alan got up there and did. Like it literally, we may have had a predetermined outcome,
Yeah.
which it's a prosecutor's worst fear. And I know
Yeah.
so I'll leave you with this question because I know you're going to take off after this one. This was a wonderful interview, even though it was supposed to be
I
you
know.
interviewing me.
And we'll cobble it together and I will upload it and hopefully I will be able to put it out in one fell swoop. If not, I'll split it into two.
Yeah, but yes, so the the inescapable question about this is, and we talked about it a little bit earlier, and you were touching on it. Yes, there will be the civil cases. Yes, there
Yeah.
might be more criminal charges. Maybe there's someone that looks into this. But it's hard to not lose faith in the justice system because if this happens even once, it means
Hmm.
all the check and balances, the sieve of the system, every single sort of notch that was meant to catch inappropriate behavior failed. And a lot of us are now left wondering and saying, okay, so did we not give you enough checks and balances? Every juror got asked every day, did you see outside influence, et cetera, et cetera? You had the opportunity to screen them. Did we not give you enough tools? Or do we need new tools? And that's my question. What can we do? Do we have to ban cameras in the courtroom? Do we have
Ugh,
to change? Do we have to have professional
I hope not.
juries?
I hope not because I did enjoy watching the trial every day. I was like, I couldn't wait to hear what Hank Brennan was going to do. I watched his closing argument 3 times. I thought it was a masterclass. I really did. Um, I think, I just kind of think, well, Lizzie Borden, Casey Anthony, and OJ were all found not guilty too. Like, you can't escape God. That's the thing. You can't escape God. And Karen, I found it so blasphemous when you heard Carrie Roberts and Jen McCabe saying that they were in the back of the car praying and she asked to pray. And it's like, and then when you realize what you'd done and there was no escaping what you'd done and you admitted what you did, you then, instead of taking responsibility for your actions, and she probably would have, pled out to involuntary manslaughter or negligent homicide and she would have been out of jail by now. Easy. Instead of taking responsibility, you said, I'm going to create a conspiracy and I'm going to rope in, 50 different people and inanimate objects and dogs and the Sally port camera and, pieces of my tail light. And it's all a big conspiracy. And I'm going to blacken the names of people that I called friends. It's evil. It's not that she's just an in denial alcoholic narcissist. It's that she's evil. And the fact that she called on God is like, I'm like, ooh, let me step back and miss the lightning. She's not going to escape God. And that's the bottom line. She's not. So we'll see what happens. But
I admire your not your insight about the fact that she did that in a heretical way. A lot of
mhm,
people would not say blasphemous, but I like that term there too.
it is.
It makes me think about Matthew 25:31 through 46. I'm not proselytizing. I just like that verse in the Bible. And it's like we're defined, our souls are going to be defined not where we live, not what nation we're part of, although I love my country, you know that, but how we treat the least among us. And what Karen did was time and time again, I think her plan was initially to throw Lucky under the bus, the plow
Poor
truck driver.
Lucky.
And then
Poor Lucky. God,
when
he got played. Oh, poor Lucky.
and then when Lucky went along with them, Karen said, you know what? These people, these Jen McCabe, Carrie Roberts, maybe they're not vulnerable in the traditional sense, but they don't want their lives ripped open. That's my defense.
Ugh. It's just like you gave me the chills when you quoted that scripture. And I just, Lucky is such a sad. I was so impressed, I think, with Hank's cross of him because he treated him so gently. And it's like, it's not like what Aiden did to that guy, what Turtle Boy did to him when he was coming out. He's like, I don't want to be involved in this, and I didn't see anything, or, I didn't see whatever he said initially. Aiden got him to kind of do the bidding of FKR, and it was gross and
Well,
sad.
Hank pointed it out on Cross, and notice that's what really. I don't mean to keep you, by the way. You might have to come back for maybe I'll interview you sometime.
Sure,
But
sure. Why not?
but Aiden, you brought it totally up right. Hank Brennan on Cross said, "Lucky, this article Aiden wrote about you on June 5th, 2023, was on the same day you met with defense investigators, wasn't it?" And the jury, notice the jury never talked about that. They never talked about anything. Literally every single juror that's come out so far, it's been talking point, some talking points not even from this trial.
The one male juror was like, "Oh, it was definitely a dog bite. I showed it to my doctor," and they said, "What?" Like again, I wish Hank Brennan would have. I mean, I understand maybe the strategy at the time, but the jury should have heard that this magical dog with no lower jaw or DNA. There was no dog attack. Like this is ugh, this.
Well, and
Anyway.
maybe that's what it's meant to do to us. It's meant to throw us off our game by just putting out this narrative so that we don't focus on the reality, which is there's something wrong here. But I don't want to keep you. I want to let you get to your dinner. I want to say, so I want to get this right. Angela Box. I have a friend named Brian Box Brown who's a cartoonist. I think he like is
No
national.
relation.
No, and I knew that, but I think I said it once earlier to the audience. It's Angela Box Brown. Nope, it is Angela Box. So that was
Angela
very
Box.
good.
And you can find me. Everything is Angela Box Show. Everything, Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff.
And I hope this will not be the last time we see
It won't be. You're
Angela.
cool.
No, this was a great conversation, and I think we've learned some lessons. We have some parameters. It's not our fault. We're Americans, so you tell us as good Americans to stop. We do. So there you go. We have parameters. We'll see Angela again, and you can follow Angela Box Show. I tweeted out her username on Twitter. Give her a follow. You have a YouTube channel, I take it, Instagram, etc., etc.
Yes. And, screw Karen Reed.
Well, don't say that too loudly. Alan Jackson might hear you.
I'm going to find his Botox lady and have her inject me. Yeah, I'll be like, Alan, lighten up on the Botox, please, for the love. And do something with those eyebrows. Something.
You have a great night, Angela. I'm going to go talk to the Towel Friends. We have a theory about how Alan Jackson might be a government agent, so we're going to go research CIA documents.
Thanks, towel heads. Thanks, Grant.
See you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.